All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of An Impromptu Truth. I'm your host James, and I'm sitting here with a friend of mine, Selena, who's had some pretty interesting encounters in the Sullivan County area. Selena, you want to take it away?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Okay, so where should we start? Do you want to hear the alien stories? Because there's 3 parts to that story.
Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, okay. So my first encounter with a UFO. Because I was always kind of skeptical growing up and everything. Like, yeah, there might be something out there more than human beings, but I never believed until this night when this happened. I started a job at Papa Luke's Pizzeria, and I remember we were getting ready to go home. It was about 15 minutes before we closed and left. And all of a sudden, my coworker comes running inside screaming like there was something wrong. So we run outside, me, another other coworker, and we're all standing out there, and we see this giant beam of light, and it was massive, and it was coming from far away, probably 3-4 miles away, but it looked huge then. And then when it got all the way up to us, it started hovering over the road, and it was all black and round, but there was no sound that came out of it, and the whole tree would bend from the thrust power, but you couldn't hear anything. And it looked over at us with the beam of light, and mind you, this light was completely white. There was no discoloration, and that's all we could see besides the giant black circle. And all of a sudden, it floats over. There's this tax place that's across the street from us, and there's nobody there at night. Again, it's completely quiet. Mind you, we're in the middle of the woods too, so it's completely quiet at night. Besides hearing, your normal frogs going off and crickets, and I just remember it going behind the building, and that big beam of light turned blood red and just went behind the building where you can't even land no aircraft. There's no room to land anything back there. And
yeah, I've seen this. It's a swamp back there.
Yeah, there's a tiny parking lot that fits 10 cars, but it's not even wide enough to even land a helicopter. And it goes behind the building, and the next thing I remember hearing, it sounded like a woman being ripped apart, blood-curdling screaming. And my coworker, he wanted to go over there and find out what was going on. I was like, we ain't got no shotguns right now. We're not going over there. I'm not fitting to die. And I just remember that was the first time that I really came to the realization, wow, they're here. There's something here. So then, fast forward to the next story, this was a couple months later. It came back. And I remember seeing it a few miles out. And it kept flying left to right, but it was fast and sporadic. No normal aircraft, helicopter, nothing could do those kinds of moves throughout the air without having an accident or something happening. And I remember taping it. I pulled out my phone, started taping it, and when we looked at the tape, we caught something in the tape that was chasing it. It was a little beam of light chasing behind it. Okay. Because it wouldn't come next to us. It was all the way out, and I caught that on camera. I kept trying to post it, and I showed a few people in school, and I remember going to gym class one day, and all of a sudden, as I tried to post the video, the whole screen goes black. The whole phone just completely crashes. I went to every Verizon store in the county to reboot this phone, and nobody could reboot it. And they have these boxes that are supposed to bring the phones back to life. From Stone Cold Dead, and nothing happened after that. I lost the video, lost the footage, and I was so upset because that was the only thing that I had proof. To show people. My mom, she's a hard skeptical, and she was like, "That's something weird."
Now, this was the same object as the first time?
Yep.
What? Can you give a little more description of what it looked like?
Well, you can see, because I only seen it, the first 2 times, I only seen it at night, so you could only see that giant beam of light.
Okay.
But I knew what it was, because it was so distinctive. There's nothing else, and, mind you, we have an airport that's about 3 miles down the road, but this is something that was out of the ordinary. It wasn't normal, wasn't a normal aircraft, and something wasn't right when it went behind that building. There's no way that nothing could have landed back there, and it still has me baffled till this day. And
Would you say that white beam was like a search beam, and then when it found, say, whatever it was looking for, that's when it turned that red color?
Well, maybe. I mean, it was so weird because I felt like when it came across the road and I was hovering over the road, I just remember just feeling captured by the light, just like just looking at it. Like, it could have literally just taken us right there because we were so stunned. We were so stunned, like what the hell is this? Like, I mean, how's this even possible right now? And, you know, there had to be like 4 or 5 cars that like drove by and nobody noticed it because, it was big, black, and round, and it was floating over them. So nobody was even noticing it. I mean, granted, it was the middle of the night, but still, like, you don't see this giant beam of light. Like, that's like, it had that whole back porch at my job just flooded out. Like, you could see everything.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird, man. It was so weird, and I just remember like the hair on the back of my neck just stood up instantly, and we were just looking at it like, oh my god, like this is something like extraterrestrial. And so after the second time when I caught it on camera and my phone crashed, I seen it for the last and third time, and I haven't seen it. And this is going back 8 years ago now, guys. I haven't seen this thing in 8 years, and I hope I kind of never do because it gave me the willies after the third time. I was coming down Airport Road, and it was probably an hour and a half before it was dark, so it was during the day still. And I just remember all of a sudden, I'm driving. Sorry, guys. I just remember that I'm driving down the road, and this thing comes out of nowhere. The same aircraft thing comes out of nowhere and floats right in front of me, probably about a half mile before I got up to it. And then all of a sudden, it beams back up into the sky, and it follows me. And this road has a lot of turns, so it's a 50 to 55. I literally clocked myself doing 95, trying to outrun it, and it was staying in pace in front of me, a good like 3-4 car lengths. And then when I got to the end of the road, it turned back around with the light, dropped down a little bit, looked at me, and I sat there for a good. It felt like a good 5 minutes. It probably was, just like 2-3 minutes, but it felt like forever for a second, and I just didn't want to move or drive anywhere because that thing followed me that fast. They could take me whenever it wanted. So I was just like, what do I do? And I remember being on the phone with my boss because I was so scared. I was like, if something happens to me, I just want you to know, like, there's something following me in the sky. And he thought that I was crazy, but I was literally that scared. Like, I felt like that I had to, tell him in case anything happened.
So you came to the end of the road, and this thing turned around and just sat there looking at you?
Yep. And that big white beam of light. And then, like I said, 3, maybe 5 minutes, and all of a sudden, it goes back on the side, and it shoots off like a rocket. Instant. Like, it was like, boom. Just like completely flew out of the sight within seconds.
And this is the same object from the first 2 occasions?
Yep, same exact one. But this time I got to see it during the day, so I could literally see it was like this roundish, but it had like these weird wing fins on it. It was weird, like I don't know if they were like when they're changing, what is it, direction to fly, moves the fins or something. I don't know, but it was definitely I've never seen nothing like this. And I'm into like military stuff and all that. Like, I've never seen nothing like this. I mean, granted, the government could have something crazy, but what I'm saying is no government has this technology to do what this thing fucking did.
Yeah, and it was like a black. What color was it? And the third time, could you make it? What would you say the texture of it looked like? If it was,
it kind of the texture. I remember that very clearly because it was very distinctive. It kind of looks like that mesh, but it's like that rubberized, like a mesh coating. It kind of looked like.
Okay.
I can't think of the name right now. I'm having a brain fart, but it looked like, you know how like what is it? Spider-Man's suit is, like how it has the textures in it and stuff.
It kind of almost looks like chainmail-ish a little bit.
Yeah, okay. And then it has like that rubberish look. Look to it and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that, but it was all black. All black. There was not a color on it, but the black and the big white light.
Was there any other lights on this object?
No, that's what was weird too, because normally all the aircrafts that are allowed to be in the sky, they have these little lights that blink or tags and stuff like that. There was nothing like that, and it was completely silent. For something to fly off that fast and do what it did and not make a sound, nobody heard a peep. The only thing that we heard from the first time was when it went behind the building, and we heard this loud, blood-curdling scream.
I wonder what that could have been.
And I sat there for a good hour after the fact. I didn't leave. I purposely sat there and watched that building. Nothing ever came back out of that building.
So what happened after you heard the scream? Like, what did the object do after that?
It was already behind the building already. And then we heard the scream, and my coworker wanted to go over there. And I was like, no, we're not going over there. And I sat there for a good hour just watching that building to see if it was going to pop back up, fly away. Nothing ever happened. So after an hour, I just was like, okay, time to go home or whatever.
Oh, you never saw it leave the area?
No, yeah, that's what was weird to me too. Like, it was just, everything that night was just so out of sorts. It was so weird.
And,
I'll never forget that. Like, I tell some people about it, and they laugh like I'm crazy or I'm a loon. I know what I seen. It was something not normal.
I'm in the same boat. I know what I saw. Can't nobody tell me any different.
Exactly.
Wow, that's crazy. All right, so now you work with my brother Bass, and he told me about an instance that you had in the woods.
Oh, yep. And till this day, the only thing that I could think that it could have been was a Bigfoot, 110%. And it was.
So where did this happen?
This happened over in South Woods, about 4 or 5 miles to our left that way.
Okay.
And I was in the swamp hunting bear. It was bow season. Mind you, I'll be 26 years old this year, so I'm talking about when I did this hunt in particular, I had to be about 14, 15. So we went in, and we always go hunting. If we're going to go in the morning, we get in while it's still dark. So we sit for an hour, so all the woods have time to calm down and all that stuff. And then we sit there and wait until the light comes up. So I remember we all split off. There was 3 different seats in a half-mile radius. We all split off, go to our own seats. I'm with my stepfather and my step-uncle at the time. And I remember I got into my seat, calm, just getting ready to, kind of, take a nap until the sun comes up. And all of a sudden, I hear all that, had to be, 4 or 5 owls, hooting all over. And I'm texting my stepfather, and all of a sudden, he sends a text because I say, I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of owls hooting out here. It's kind of cool to hear. And he says back to me, he was just being a smart ass, mind you, because he's a big skeptical. He doesn't believe in Bigfoot, aliens, nothing. You can't tell him any different. So he texts me and says, when you hear owls in the woods, that means that Bigfoot's around. And I kind of laughed it off. I was like, haha, you're always clowning around. And no sooner than I read that text, 2, maybe 3 minutes later at best, the woods go dead silent. Not a cricket, nothing. That's when I knew, there's something here. And I sat there real quiet. I didn't touch my phone because I didn't want nothing to see the light from my phone and give up my spot, even though most of the time they probably already know that I'm there because they see me walk in and they can smell me.
So it's still dark at this point?
Yep, still dark. It's probably a half hour to light.
Okay.
And now I'm sitting there and I'm listening because it's so silent, you could hear a pin drop in the woods. And I just remember hearing cracking, like a loud cracking sound. And a giant thump. My tree vibrated from the thump when I didn't find out what it was until a half hour later, when the light came up. But it was a giant tree that wasn't even dead. It had to be at least 12 feet tall, if not maybe 15 at most, at max 15. And it wasn't that big. I say with size, it probably had to be a foot and a half thick or something, maybe 2 feet thick. Okay. And that thing was uprooted from green roots, pulled right out of the ground. And I remember when that text came in and that happened, I've never silent cried in my life. I sat there and silent cried, and I begged them to come and get me out of the tree because I was so terrified. I didn't even want to be there anymore. And they all laughed at me, and still till this day laughs at me because of it, because they weren't there, so they don't understand like how scary it was, not knowing if you were gonna make it out of that tree, because that thing could have took me and drug me off. So when the light came up, I seen the tree and everything, and then I seen because this is all swampland, so you can see any boot print, anything that walks out there. So I got down out of the tree because I wanted to get the hell out of there. I didn't even stay for that hunt in the morning. And I remember seeing giant indentations, huge. They had to be if I had to guess, a 19, 20 inch foot or whatever you would call it. Yeah. What is it? A fucking foot, bigger than a foot, bigger than a normal 12. Size 12 foot. It was huge. I never seen nothing like it. And they weren't there prior because we always go in to check the cameras every day for the most part. And this is back before they had all these hunt cameras that go right to your phone as soon as a picture's taken.
Yeah.
So we had to go in there to take out all the SD cards and run through them. So I was in there the day prior. There was nothing moved out of place. There was no footprints there like that. Anything. That's how I know that there was something big, and no bear could do that, because a bear can't wrap around a tree like that and rip it from the ground. There's absolutely no logic sense to that. There's just not.
How far from your tree stand was this tree?
This tree, because I was hunting with bow, normally for me, 45, 50 yards at max that I'll shoot. So we always put the camera in range of how far it is from the tree to shoot. So, yeah, about 45, maybe 50 feet from the base of the tree. So from the base of the tree is about 45 feet out, maybe 50.
And now, you didn't hear anything walk up to that area. All you heard was a tree get ripped out. Yeah,
that's all I heard, because I couldn't see not a lick of nothing, honestly, because it was still pitch black out. But I remember all those owls were going. The woods were alive. Everything was talking how it's supposed to, chattering. And all of a sudden, it went so fucking scary quiet. It was definitely I honestly, because of this happening to me, it took me 2 years after the fact to finally go in the woods during the morning and kind of get back to somewhat of the normalcy, I guess you would say. But it took me a good 2 years because I was so freaked out about it. But yeah, no, there's definitely something there, and it wasn't something normal.
And this is right here in Sullivan County.
Yep, right here in Sullivan County.
Oh man, wow.
And there's times too, since that happened, even when I go in the woods now in certain spots on certain stands, if I'm getting out at a certain time of the night, if I get out of that tree, then it's dark already, and I'm walking through the woods, it's silent the whole time, and I feel like something's pacing me and behind me, and I'm constantly turning around, looking like there's something there, and I never had that feeling before until that happened to me that day, because there's something in these woods over here that's unexplainable, something off, because the woods never bothered me in my life. I've lived up here my whole life. The woods never bothered me. I'm a hunter. I have family members who hunt for generations. We're always in the woods camping, doing all kinds of stuff, riding four-wheelers. Never have I ever felt like there was some else than us and the bears and the deer and yeah, I mean just the normalcy until that morning.
So, now, have you, since this happened, do you constantly get a feeling that you're being watched? Because I know you still hunt.
Yeah. Yep. All the time.
All the time?
All the time.
And do you still hunt that same area?
Yep. Still, I won't go into that particular area. That one seat, I took that seat down and I moved it probably a good half mile away from where it was because it freaked me out so much. I mean, granted, it could still be. Yeah, I mean,
half mile
being
not
that
far
woods.
Thinking about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But it made me feel comfortable just to move it.
Okay. Is it now? Wow.
I just felt like that it knew that I was there, and it kind of wanted to fuck with me or something, and scare me to to leave or something. It was weird.
Like it did that to be like, yo, I see you're there. Get the hell out of my area right now.
Yep. It was because I'm gonna tell you whatever that was, and why I think think it's a Bigfoot because of that giant print and because of how the tree was ripped out and the tree was still alive. But I believe that if that thing wanted me dead, it would have jumped up that tree and ripped me right down, and nobody would have seen me.
Now, how big was the tree that you were sitting in?
Normally, when we sit in the hanger stands, because we don't use many of the ladder stands anymore, we like the hanger stands, or we have the box stands where you hunt with rifle during the cold months and stuff like that and everything, so you're not out in the elements. But I was about a good 40 feet up the tree. At least a good 35, 40 feet.
So, what was the circumference of that tree? Was it
That was a big pine. That was a real big pine. It was full grown at least. That thing had to be there at least 100 years already now. It's a full grown pine. The thing is huge, but it was a sturdy tree. But the one that ripped out, it was if I remember correctly, it was a maple tree. It was a maple tree, but it was grown enough that nothing in these woods could do that. Yeah, naturally, they just couldn't. That tree was. It's just they don't have the force nor the grab to be able to grab around a tree like that and literally uproot it from 6-8 roots that are probably a good half a foot thick each.
Now, when you got a good look at it, did it look like it was tossed from where it was pulled out of?
Yeah.
How far away was it tossed from the point of where it was pulled?
I'd say not that far. I'd say, if I had to guess, because it's been so long, but if I had to guess, I would say about 10 to 15 feet in there. Yeah, not that far, but far enough that something big and that has the strength could do that.
Far enough that a grown man's not going to throw that tree 15 feet.
Hell no. And if they can, I want to meet them because I want to shake that person's hand.
Now, how tall was this maple?
Maple, it had to be at least, like I said, a good, 12 to 15 feet in there, high.
Okay. So, have you had, now, I live in Sullivan County, you live in Sullivan County, we know this is a weird area. Have you had any other strange occurrences in this area?
No, thank God, but I always wait for it. I always do, because you just never know up here. A lot of people think that New York is all city and concrete jungle. No, most of the state is backwoods, and there's some shit in these hills.
Oh, listen, I completely believe you. Last month or so, me and my wife went to Niagara, and I did not know upstate New York looked like that. It's
right,
crazy.
Thick and vegetated, very mountainy.
Yeah, I'm just looking around, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is...
Yep, and it's upstate, because we're right in the middle, all the way upstate up there. It's a whole nother world too, because there's a lot of farmland, and the back roads back there, you'll get lost very easily, and there's nasty grizzlies up there too. So you make a wrong turn, you're gonna know about it.
shit. All right, Selena, I thank you and appreciate you coming on the show.
No, thank you for having me.
Telling your stories. Listen, yeah. This has been another episode of An Impromptu Truth. Thank you to my guest, Selena, for coming through. Sitting in my car because my kids are too loud. But thank you guys for listening and have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome to